You want to take
Um,
through the first part of it?
Yeah, so welcome everybody. My name is Adrian Cotter. I am on the agenda committee along with Myra Redman and John Bowers, who's doesn't appear to be on the call today. Since it looks like we're going to have a small meeting today, feel free to jump in with questions. It's good to raise your hand, but sometimes we do miss that. I do miss the raised hands, so we forget to call on people. So don't feel shy about speaking up. In a sec, I just want to ask if there's any agenda changes or additions to the agenda to be requested by anyone.
Adrian, you might repeat that once James is in and settled. He might have some additions.
Okay. James, go ahead. I see your hand is up.
Yes, I did send in a memo suggesting 2 items, and I didn't know maybe they're included in the discussions. Maybe the subjects are already there for them. Had to do with the Bay Trail to High Street and staff efforts, costs and so forth relating to the walking paths at Lake Merritt. Maybe they're included in other items on the agenda already.
Oh,
Or maybe my better question is, I sent these in on May 5.
I did.
They weren't included on the agenda.
That's
I
correct.
have to say that as an agenda committee member, I didn't see them. Doesn't mean it wasn't there, but I
Yeah,
didn't.
nor did I. I don't know if it went to Michael and Mike and it didn't get passed on.
I think that was me. I will take responsibility. It came to the Measure DD email, which is the right thing to do, but I did not forward it.
Yeah, that's what
my
the
mistake.
instructions were, to send it to
That is the
this
instructions.
email address, which I did.
Thank you. That was my mistake.
Well, James, would you like it on the agenda?
Yes, please. I would at least like to bring them up, the reasons I wanted to have them on the agenda. And then it can be decided whether they go on this agenda or another agenda.
Okay. Could you repeat one more time what the?
Okay, the first one was location change for Bay Trail to High Street. I included a narrative, but essentially I was saying that maybe we should reconsider how the Bay Trail is being planned to go from Union Point Park to High Street. And I discussed the reasons that I think we should reconsider that. The second one was I asked for a performance account of staff effort and costs regarding the proposed repair of walking paths at Lake Merritt.
Around the lake.
Since this item has been in process for well over a year. So, and I suggested a couple of things I thought might be done.
This is the degraded path.
Yeah,
I think that is part of Terry's update,
okay.
or at least part of it. If we could, thank you for that, James. If we could do a quick round of introductions, I'll call people out, give your name and organization. Why don't we start with you, James?
James Van, Coalition of Advocates for Lake Merritt, and an early member of the coalition.
Sandy?
Sandy Threlfall, member of Oakland League of Women Voters and this wonderful organization, Coalition for DD.
Bill?
Bill Threlfall, Waterfront Action.
Rick?
Rick Rickard, Bike East Bay.
Myra?
Myra Redman, agenda committee.
Here, here.
Bob Redmond, Essex COC, Community Action Committee.
Hazel,
Hazel Tesoro, Oakland Parks and Recreation Foundation.
thank you. Dee,
Dee Rosario, East Bay Regional Park District, Board of Directors.
Terry,
Terry Fashing, acting manager, division manager for watershed and stormwater management division and acting DD bonds manager.
thank you. Mandolin,
Mandolin Kadir Redmond with the Oakland Parks and Recreation Foundation.
Thank you.
Christine,
Christine Reed, Oakland Public Works Project and Grant Management Division.
and Asada.
I'm just a citizen listening and learning. I have very much concerns about equity of measured DD funds.
Okay, welcome. All right, so I should have shared the minutes from last time as well. Are there any suggestions for changes, or can we approve last month's minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
If that's a motion, I second.
All right, great. Naomi and Linda, do you want to introduce yourselves? I see you've joined post our introduction.
Hi, I'm Naomi. Here I am. I made it.
Welcome, Naomi.
Oh, and
All right.
John.
John. Linda became John.
John.
John, you're on mute, but we will. There we go.
Hey, there he is.
Oh, God. I'm John Bowers. I'm with the Lake Merritt Institute and on the agenda committee of the Measure DD Coalition.
Okay, nice to see you, John.
Thank you for coming.
Terry, I believe it is on you now.
Okay. So let's see. For the CIP process, I am continuing to learn about that process and have made a lot of progress in the last 2 months. However, I am not ready with a proposal. What I will tell you is that because of Measure U, there are bond capacity, I suppose, I wouldn't really call it issues, but I would say bond capacity is a factor in determining when we can sell Series D bonds. And so I'm in communication with the budget office and will be meeting more frequently with them to make sure that we can move ourselves towards selling Series D bonds. However, I don't have an update on timing right now for that because Measure U and bond capacity figure in. And so what we did do is, in order for Estuary Park to make progress, we're going to need some Series D funding. And so we did for the upcoming CIP process, we put in a request to sell Series D bonds, a few, like, I guess, maybe the last half of the 2-year CIP. So I guess that would have been, actually I have to look, but what we are suggesting is that we would need to have Series D funding available in about 2 years for Estuary Park. And that is what we proposed in the CIP. That is the only thing that will show up in the fiscal year 23-25 CIP that will show up as a funded DD project. And I am going to continue communicating with the Public Works Project and Grant Management, as well as the Budget Office, to explain, to come up with a plan for a proposed plan for the Series D Measure DD funding, and that will be in collaboration with the Measure DD Community Coalition. But right now, I am in the process of learning how the whole thing works. And the other concern or issue is that there are many projects that the city is implementing, and there are many storm drainage projects that are urgent that we are going to be needing to implement because of the storms. And so that has really stretched then the city's project management abilities. And so we're figuring out where we are right now, figuring out a way to proceed with completing all of the projects that are on the list. And as we go through that, I am continuing to talk about Measure DD projects, and I'll be, developing a proposed plan. And I will just tell you that I have been on a learning curve, and I really have learned a significant amount in the last 2 months. And so I think I now understand how it works, and will be able to effectively, explain, what are the wish list projects and how can we get those on the list, and what, and figure out if we can use remainder funds or if we're going to be using Series D funds for those. And then there will need to be a conversation about how much money do we have left to sell, and what projects are of interest to the coalition to implement moving forward. So go ahead, James.
It's just a short question, and it may be a misunderstanding on my part, but I was under the impression that we had sold the fourth tranche of funds from DD, and that the funds were all received, and so we were spending the last of the DD funds. And maybe I'm wrong.
Not.
I hear you talking about the fourth tranche, and I guess, yeah, is that true? We have not sold all the DD funds?
We have not, and I feel like my job is to make sure we can spend enough of the third tranche to be able to move forward with selling the fourth. So that's part of the issue, is that we have had so many stalled projects that we haven't finished, spending the third tranche, and you can't sell the fourth tranche until you spend the third tranche. It is critically important that we sell the third tranche, move forward with certain projects, and then so that we can move on to the next one. And I'll be scheduling a meeting with the Treasury to really get their help to move forward, like to understand how it is that we're going to be able to sell that fourth tranche. But for the third tranche, I would like to use our existing funding to move current projects forward, such as one example is with the waterfront trails category. With the remaining funds we have, I I believe we should put that funding into the Estuary Park project and start thinking about that project in terms of, well, Chris is going to talk about this in the presentation, so let's hold off on that discussion. But I just want to say that I am learning, and I believe I am getting much closer to being able to come with a really good plan, but I'm not there yet. It is, go ahead.
Oh, me?
Yeah. Oh,
Thank you.
I thought your hand was up.
Hey, and you saw it. Well, I'm a little confused in that I thought 2 meetings ago, we clarified that bond projects that were explicitly in the ballot did not have to go to CIP.
Yes, but the problem is that we don't have enough funding to do all of those bond projects, and those rely on us selling the 4th tranche of funding. And so, you know what I mean? So we did talk about this last time.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not resolved yet, but we would need to find project manager to be able to implement those projects. And so we're not quite there yet with being able to implement any of those projects on the wish list. And
okay, this
so,
isn't the
yeah.
wish list I'm talking about. These are the projects that were in the bond, in writing, what the people voted on. And we don't have to go to CIP anymore, which is the past 2 or 3 circuits we've had to do. And we got rejected every time. We can't be rejected. We're Measure DD.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
And I do hear what you're saying, and I am in the process of understanding how this works. There are Measure U came along, and it has complicated the process. And I am at the table making sure to advocate for Measure DD.
Thank you.
Just to let you know. And so let me just see. So I will provide a better update on the CIP process as I figure it out. But and when I say CIP process, it is that there are many projects being implemented by the city, and you know, I'm figuring out how any future DD projects can be folded into that process. So the 7th Street Tidegate operations, I have not heard back from the district. I reached out again today, and I will, you know, I don't know why the district has not been able to get back to me, but I will follow up with the person I'm trying to communicate with at the district. And I have put the ball into his court many times, and then I haven't followed up regularly. And so I will start actually making phone calls, because he, you know, I've been super busy. I think he's super busy, and he has not gotten back to me. So I emailed him before the meeting, and I said to him that I would follow up with some phone calls to try to actually schedule a meeting with him.
Jerry, do you
Okay, so
copy-
how
do
about a
you
report
copy-
on the projects?
Pardon me?
Your agenda item.
Yeah, okay. So that I'm just kind of going through this little thing here. The list on the project manager's report. For the path repair update, Craig Pond did not get back to me. I will follow up, and I'll get back to the agenda committee with an update this week, but he did not provide updates. We reach out for updates. He didn't respond. I will follow up with him personally and get an update to you all about that. So James, I don't have an update on that. And I will ask about it. And it
Yeah.
is,
This is another question.
Yeah.
We're having some trouble with the staff at the Regional Parks District. D. Rosario is on this committee and he's a board member. Do you, I would just suggest that you copy D on any communications you have. And D will
Okay.
be a good,
I'm not, yeah, sure. I'm not having any issue with East Bay Regional Park District staff. It is flood control district staff that
Yeah.
are having trouble getting back to me. So I hear what you're saying, but East Bay Regional Park District staff have been getting back to me right away. So no update on path repair. Staff expenditure reporting, I'm going to provide a little bit of information after I go through the project update. And so now I'm going to go through that. I'm going to share my screen. Uh-oh. Okay. So oops. Okay. So, okay. So there are no updates on these items, and I will share this PowerPoint with Mandolin so she can upload it to the website. But
Thank you.
we don't have an update on the path that Craig Pond is working on. As I said, I will personally reach out to him and figure out what's going on and how we can make progress on that project. Glen Echo Creek restoration has been on hold. Well, we're moving through that project slowly, but we've definitely been interrupted by so many urgent storm drainage issues that came along because of the storms. No work on Beaconsfield. I have a feeling that will be on hold for quite some time until we can make it through these many projects. 7th Street pedestrian crosswalk, that project is complete. It has been damaged, and the only way for damaged DD projects to be addressed, especially something like the damages that happen at the 7th Street pedestrian crosswalk, is through filing 311 complaints. And so if anyone wants to CC me on those kinds of complaints, if they come up, if anyone notices a problem, then feel free to do that. But we are not, yeah, once a project is complete, then it is up to, you know, the different groups at the city to take action to do the repairs. And I'm assuming that they put them onto their priority list and get to them ASAP. And the fact that it's a DD project, I mean, we can make a case for prioritization, but they're going to have to prioritize according to their own systems. Go ahead.
Okay. In a previous meeting, I thought I have down here that the 311 submission was complete.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't get an update as to whether that was fixed, but
it was not fixed. So.
Yeah. So that's what I mean is that it's on someone's list and it hasn't been prioritized yet. Yes.
Terry, I think you can just take this off your list.
Okay, got it. I should have just taken this off the update here, but so thank you. Yeah, sorry that it hasn't been fixed yet. So acquisitions is we don't have a real update on that right now. It's moving along slowly, but probably next meeting we'll have a better update on that, because I know Mike is has a few things brewing, but nothing has been finalized yet. So let's see. Measure DD Coalition Administrative Support Contract that is moving along. OPRF is providing support. There's some work to do some map updates that Mike is going to be working on probably this month. And then I don't have updates on East Bay Regional Park District sites right at the moment that update anything that was added from last time. So, so I already talked about this. We have not heard from the flood control district, so I'll keep trying to follow up with the district so that I can get responses from them and wrap up that project. For the Lake Merritt interpretive signs, those signs will be installed this week. So keep an eye out for that. Let's see, Lake Merritt channel improvements at 10th Street. So that project to finish, do replanting in the wetlands has hit another roadblock because the agencies would like to extend the amount of post-project monitoring that they're going to require the city to do from what we wanted it to be was 3 years. And they're saying it has to be 5 years for some things and 10 years for others. And so we are in conversation with the water board primarily to see what we can work out, because it was our wish to replant in there. We have some protection because that fence is up now, and we would like to replant and then have 3 years of post-project monitoring and reporting. But it's looking like they want to see us do 5 to 10 years of post-project monitoring and reporting. So we are negotiating with them and also trying to figure out where the funding would come from for that. And so it's a regulatory issue that we're trying to sort out. So, but we do have our 65% replanting bid documents, and those are being reviewed and marked up by the project manager. For the waterfront trails projects, at the Fruitvale Land Crossing Bay Trail segment that Chris Reed, who's here tonight, is managing, a contractor was selected to complete it, and the project will be completed this summer. So that's great news. There's going to be a separate presentation very soon on Estuary Park, so I'm not going to say anything about that. The Union Point Park to 23rd Avenue, we are where we were last time. The project manager there was a switch in project managers, and the new project manager has not had time to work on this project. And we're internally looking at some alternatives for project management. Where we are right now with this project is we have some reports that we're reviewing, and we are waiting for an order of magnitude cost estimation from one of our consultants that will really help us understand where we can go with this project. We talked about this last time. This project is so challenging. At some point we may need to make a decision, but this order of magnitude cost estimation is really going to guide us. And so last time what we said was there needs to be some sort of meeting. After our last DD Coalition meeting, I called and talked to East Bay Regional Park District staff about this project. And what we are planning to do is get through these, reviewing and finalizing reports from consultants, come up with some recommendations for the city as far as moving forward with the project or not. And then what we're planning to do is meet with East Bay Regional Park District staff this summer, and we're kind of looking at August for this, to talk about where we are with this site and if it is time for the city to throw in the towel and maybe pass this project over to East Bay Regional Park District to hopefully over the long haul make progress on getting access to put in a bay trail or a waterfront trail in this location. But really until we get these deliverables from our consultant, which like I said, we're sorting out our project manager issues, and I'm hoping that we get this cost estimation this month from the consultant, and then we can have time over the next few months to make some decisions and then come with a proposal. So hopefully at the July meeting, we'll have more of an understanding about where we are, where we're going with this project. It is.
Are you saying this is simply a cost estimate for the easement acquisitions?
For the whole project.
Oh, for the whole project?
Yeah. To really look, for easement acquisitions, it says, yeah. So I guess it's just easement acquisitions and maybe.
Well, but wait, if it's for the whole project, that's a completely different decision basis that it's providing for you.
Exactly. And what I will check back on that because it does say, so that was me who said the whole project. This is just looking at easement acquisitions. And I think that's
well, you're the bond manager. You can say the whole project.
I could absolutely. I want to talk to the former project manager and ask if we already have those cost estimates, because we might actually have it. It's a little tough because I'm not the project manager on these, so I'm partially relying on what I'm hearing from. And then there was that change in project manager, so it must be that we have asked for this cost estimate for getting easement acquisitions, and then we can put that together with our existing understanding of the cost of the project once they go in, plus the results of the site assessment report and a geotechnical report that I think is still being developed. That all three of those reports, my understanding was that those would be evaluated, and then by June, July, we're able to start making some decisions about what we need to do to move forward with this project. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, Terry, thanks. I just want to reiterate that Dee and I have been involved in this for a long time, and as a bicyclist, I really feel that these are critical areas to get through because the streets in that area are terrible. And so I will reiterate what I said in my email after our last meeting, that Dee and I are available to talk with you and discuss the history and what we can do going forward. And I think I can speak for Dee in that regard as well.
Okay.
I think James had some comment.
Go ahead, James.
James, you're on mute if you're.
This is from item 1 on the list that I submitted, and if I could read it quickly, I did make a mistake. I put High Street in, but I really meant location change for Bay Trail from Union Point Park to 23rd Avenue. The attempt to route the Bay Trail immediately south of 23rd Avenue to Union Point Park has it entitled various efforts that have consumed approximately 8 years of negotiations with intervening industries with little prospect for total success and a lot of cost. I propose that the attempt to achieve a waterfront trail at this location be abandoned. As the alternative, the trail should revert to the public sidewalk from Union Point Park to a signal-controlled grade crossing at the 23rd Avenue Bridge. My reasons. I don't think we discussed the below deck crossing here, but if we did, that was abandoned. Attempts to negotiate easements with the intervening industrial uses have been difficult to achieve. as the affected industries actively utilize the estuary for delivery traffic. Pedestrian crossings through the yards of the active industries here would be an interference and poses risks of health and safety. Even if the Bay Trail was successfully installed across the industrial yards, the trails would be closed and not accessible daily after 5 p.m. and every weekend, creating an unreliable and undesirable schedule for access. More staff time, resources, and expense would be saved by discontinuing what might never be a successful effort. Even the money we're spending on these cost estimates would be saved if we would just abandon this, because this is not going to be successful in the long run across these industrial yards. That was my point number one. Thanks.
Thank you, James. I really appreciate you saying that. And it has been set up. We've made the decision to go through this process of completing these last reports, evaluating them, and then making the decision. And we've had discussions with East Bay Regional Park District staff about the possibility of handing off this project to them to either come up with an alternate route, or to proceed with trying to acquire easements. I hear what you're saying, and
this has been at least 8 years.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, well, I hear that. So Rick said, I would like to see this trail happen. And I've heard some other people say that the city should use eminent domain. And then James, you've said what you've said. And this is why this is such a challenging project. So I will, the city will, I hear what everyone's saying. Go ahead, John.
Well, I think James has raised some really interesting issues, and I would like to know what our consultants say about the factors and the considerations that James has raised. That's why we hire consultants.
Yes.
If the consultants were to tell us that it is simply infeasible for the reasons that James outlined to have a trail through this industrial area, then that would convince me. But I haven't heard that yet, and I would like to hear that assessment and that evaluation.
Okay, thank you. And Asada?
It's my understanding, when this item was discussed at the committee meeting, that the attainment of permission to access the commercial property or private property has not even been obtained. And there's no true understanding if it will ever be obtained. I'm in agreement with Mr. Van as it relates to where he is positioning on this. It needs to be abandoned. Once you obtain the ability to go through the property, that's to build or to create the trail. But you have to also need to pursue constant use of the trail with permission. And I don't know how any company is going to say we're going to have people walking through our property all day, every day, as a public access venue. I don't even see how this was even explored as a possibility, but Mr. Van is correct. But I did not get any answer to the understanding of, except that you have not, at the meeting, that you have not obtained any approval from commercial vendors to use their property for access. And
Yes.
since this has been around for a long time, why haven't we gotten to that point at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And thanks, John. Thanks, Asada, everybody, for all of your comments. What we are going to do is proceed with obtaining the information, the remaining information from the consultants. And as John mentioned, that we will be asking them to, tell us, is this feasible or is this not feasible? The progress we made over the last year is we gained access to collect information on these properties. And that was a key step. And it's with that information that we will be making a decision about how we're going to propose to move forward. Okay. And as I understand it, Department of Transportation is right now, that there might be some possibility to have a better crossing of Park Street, so that if we were looking at an alternate route, it may be that the timing is good because Department of Transportation is looking at a project to improve pedestrian, the ability for pedestrians to cross Park Street. And so I did connect Department of Transportation staff to East Bay Regional Park District staff about that. And yeah, so we'll see how this progresses. So I want to keep moving and get to Chris's presentation. So I think I understand what you all are saying. And John, did you want to say anything else? Your
No.
hand is still up. Okay,
No.
got it.
Sorry.
I hear what everyone's saying, and I really appreciate your input. So as I mentioned, that there's project management issues because the project managers all have so many projects happening. So we're coming up with an alternative, and I'll be obtaining more information on that process in the next week or two. So we had the division manager for project and grant management just a few weeks ago announced that she was retiring. And so there's more staffing issues in our group, so or in our bureau. So that group is struggling and to figure out next steps and to deal with not enough staff to do the work that's ahead of them. So, okay, so then for Cortland Creek Restoration Project, the tree removal was completed, and creek restoration, the construction contract should be executed by June 1st, and they'll be starting construction on that project, which is great. So yeah, that's that project, and that is all the updates. Oh, I wanted to just look at, whoops, it's in the way. Is the right one? Just want to make sure that we got through all of the updates. Hold on. Estuary Park. Yeah, that was it. Okay, I just wanted to make extra sure. So now let's go ahead and go to, I'm going to stop sharing and go to Chris Reed's presentation on Estuary Park.
Okay, great. Thank you, Terry. Hello, everyone. It's nice to see you again. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if I can do this smoothly. Okay. And there we go, launch. Okay, so Terry asked me to provide an update on the Estuary Park renovation and expansion project. It's been a little while since I came to see you all. And so I wanted to kind of give you an update on our progress. But more importantly, let's see if I can advance here. I wanted to provide some clarifications to what we've been calling the master plan document. So I'm going to kind of give an overview of some terminology changes. We realized that there was some misunderstanding, I think, related to inconsistent terminology within that document. So I just really wanted to kind of point to how we've renamed things largely, and also kind of give an overview of the intent there. I'll just show a few slides related to that. And then, so that'll be an overview of the conceptual master plan, which includes current and future projects, the Estuary Park renovation and expansion project, or what we're calling the project. And then some current ideas that Terry and I have been hatching related to project implementation strategy, which she alluded to earlier, as well as potential process for future projects. So first of all, this is the view we're calling the conceptual master plan. And I think the big thing we wanted to clarify, this will be a familiar image, but really it's showing it's the plan view of the entire park property, delineating the Estuary Park and renovation and expansion project, or what we're calling the project limits, and identifying those areas that will require further planning, design, and environmental review as future projects. And so we just went through the document and made sure that we were being very consistent in our terminology so as not to confuse those two things, the master plan versus the project. So essentially all the elements are there, including this number 14, the gravel pocket beach for soft kayak launch. So I'll talk a little bit more about why this zone is noted for future project. So, and then on the flip side, the park project conceptual plan is also familiar.
Oakland Estuary Park.
Yes, the Estuary Park renovation and expansion project. The red outline delineates the area of that project, and the elements that you see here are similar to what you've seen before in past presentations to you all. And so I think that the clear, the thing that we wanted to be sure was clear here is that this is the project that's the basis for our planning approvals and environmental review. However, this project may be implemented in phases or sequenced construction packages. And so, in terms of planning, it helps us to do environmental review for a larger area, though we may be seeking independent minor conditional use permits and building permits tied to each construction scope. So I'll kind of show some of these. I believe I may have shared these images before, but if not, I wanted to be sure that you saw. These are renderings of the project. So this is along the eastern edge, the existing bulkhead, these steps that lead down to the water. And what you see here is that we're proposing to raise the grade of the park for much of the area, raise it about 2 feet, which brings it up level with the existing trellis here on the left. And you can see that the project would include a new bay trail coming along this edge as well. This is a similar view, just moved a little bit toward the pier. It's as if we're standing at the base of the pier looking towards the park. JLAC is straight ahead. This is that existing trellis, which will just be renovating and updating. It will remain a picnic area, but it will be cleaned up with new furnishings. And I think the big move here is that we'll be providing some breaks in the wall so that there's an easier circulation east to west across this space. Oops, sorry. Way. This is a bird's eye view, kind of looking from the southwest corner of the park, looking back across the park. JLAC is kind of hidden behind the tree here on the left-hand side. And this is a view of what we'd like to see along the shoreline, a naturalized edge condition. And the bay, this is again the bay trail, which would connect up to the existing bay trail, at the west edge of the park, and it continues, it wraps all the way around, and then it connects up with the existing stretch of Bay Trail along the JLAC waterfront. This is a view as if you're kind of coming past the dog park to the left. To your back would be the parking area with the new expanded parking zone looking towards the trellis. And so this is a little more current version. This was from the 65 design documentation set that was issued in the fall. And so really what I wanted to reiterate again is that the documentation, the construction documentation in CEQA will be for this park area. But what Terry and I are talking about, what she alluded to, is that this project started without any indication of what funds may be available for construction. So we really only have funding for design. And so we're trying to be very strategic about which funds we might get and when, and what that could mean for construction. So we'd love to get this going as soon as we can. So we're also trying to be really mindful about biting off projects that are doable and achievable. And so potentially looking at Series C funds to implement one piece, maybe Series D for, you know, the second piece, and then potentially Measure U or other sources. That's kind of to be determined. So this is all part of this elaborate bond learning exercise that Terry has been going through to figure out what our options can be to fund this project. And so then I think finally indicating with this document which areas will require future study. And I think the big thing to note about the existing JLAC building, which is here, and it's the kind of boat spaces, boat yard, recreational amenities along the edge, as well as the Bay Trail, the seawall, the existing parking lot, all of that in terms of long-term sea level rise is too low. And so we've understood from the beginning that a real holistic look needs to happen, a holistic planning and design effort to sort of think about what's the best future for this. Is it possible to, for example, renovate the JLAC, or are you looking at significant rebuilding? I think those are things that our team highlighted are just pretty complicated and would require a future project to really delve into it. And so, you know, rebuilding the shoreline edge in a similar manner to the other, perhaps replacing the crumbling riprap wall with a softer wall could be part of that. As well as, you know, addressing how, if you raise that elevation, how that elevation interfaces with the ramp and docks. So we're kind of pointing to that as a future project, which is included as an unfunded project in the city's capital improvement plan budget document. So it's noted as something that it needs funding and future design. I think I've covered the gist of what I wanted to say. I wanted to note that the updated draft of the master plan, I said, has been posted. I've put in the request to post it on the project webpage, and so I'm hoping it'll go in tonight or tomorrow. But you know, check it out. We've updated that master plan document, and I believe the timeline's been updated on the website as well. Okay, I'm seeing a hand raised from James. James, I think you're muted.
Yeah, okay. Yes, I understand that 18 million was set aside in the original Measure D budgeting for Estuary Park. I have a distinct memory that the developer was supposed to make contribution as well, but people say that's not in the documents. So given that there's 18 million, is part of the plan to see what part of the the project could be realized with the 18 million, and then what amounts of money would need to be appropriated or allocated for the other portions, if in fact it's going to be done in stages. Thank you.
That's interesting. Terry, you may be familiar if there was a number. I mean, I think Terry's been really digging into what funds have been allocated in different, I guess, the buckets of Measure DD. As far as I know, as the project manager, that money isn't in the project. So though it may have been noted as a budget, that money hasn't really been allocated to the project as yet. And so what I'm working with is really a small portion of funding for design and the CEQA and planning approvals process. But that, I think what Terry's looking at for Series C is looking at what existing funds are available from the past bond sale. And then any future bond sale would be new funds allocated to Measure DD projects. Terry, am I explaining that? I'm not sure if I'm.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I'm gonna share my screen to show something. Yeah, I mean, thank you for saying that 18 million was planned on, and I didn't know that, and I'm still catching up on reading all of the past information, but and I will find the council report where that is outlined. Or maybe is it in the bond actually that it says 18 million? No, it's okay. I need to find the council report where it says that. So
It has been on the project summary spreadsheet for
Okay.
a very long period of time. Now, your current project spreadsheet may be different, but we were up. I think James is referencing to information that we carried for several years on that project spreadsheet
Okay.
for Series C funds.
okay.
That to me sounds like a budget. So we can as project managers ascribe what we believe should be the project budget, but unless we actually have the funds in hand, we're not able to spend that or plan for the construction project with that. I mean, that could be what had been indicated. That sounds about right. It sounds consistent with what we were targeting for the project. Right. But as far as having that money actually allocated to Estuary Park, that hasn't happened.
Right, and so hold on, let me just sum up this column. I am finding it very hard to work in that spreadsheet that Kristen had been working in, and I'm changing the way that I'm keeping track of this so that it's a spreadsheet that I can work in. And so this is something I've been working on with with my fiscal person who's helping out on this. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So this is the waterfront access category, and this shows all of the projects and how we track them in Oracle in our, so we have a few different instances of Estuary Park I was noticing, and so this is just the most accurate way for us to keep track of what has happened in the past. And so what I show for total funds available still in this category is, and we still have a little bit of Series B left, just a few, like 1,200 here and 500 here. So really not much money, but so if we look at funds available from Series C and Series B together, we have about 3 million left. We have right now 500,000 for Estuary Park, we have only 1,200 left for the Park Street Bridge project. Derby to Lancaster, we have a little bit. So these are kind of considered remainder funds at this point because, oh no, not for Park Street because that's still an active project. This would be remainder fund. For High Street, we have remainder funds of 26,000. And then we have this category, which is not a project. It's just funding that my understanding is we can move this into the budget of other projects. So we have almost $3 million plus these other remainder funds. So I should total this later and I'll develop a better report for you all in the future. But what I see is that we have, $2.9 million. And from my point of view, we should put this into Estuary Park because if what we think is going to happen, I mean, it depends on what is finally decided about the Union Point Park to 23rd Avenue project. If we're going to proceed with working on that project, then we would use some of this money for that. But the thing about Series C and getting to Series D is we need to 100% invoice, not just encumber, but we would need to invoice for, I think it's 75% of Series C before we could sell Series D. And so what I think is ahead of me that I will work on between now and July is come up with a plan to spend the remaining Series C funding and a schedule. Like, when are we going to be able to spend this? On what are we spending it? What is the schedule for those projects? What is realistic? And so when speaking with Chris, if we, in the scenario where our main focus right now is on Estuary Park, in terms of spending the remainder of these Series C funds, what we talked about is breaking the current project of Estuary Park into construction packages, as Chris just said, and so that we would figure out what portion of the project we can get done in the near term using these funds that you see right here, almost $3 million. And then what that allows us to do is move to the next step of selling the Series D funding. So that is really all I wanted to say, is that this is how much we have left in this category. We need to spend it. And to me, it seems like a good idea to spend it on Estuary Park so we can add the funding it needs to construct a portion of the project. And then we can move to constructing the rest of the project later. And then in terms of remaining funding in the bond, we have 25 million according to my calculations right now. And if I hide this detail right here, so we can just see the categories, we can see that these different categories have had the original allocations, right? And then there was the original bond amount and the original allocations. And then there was a certain amount you could spend for public art and DD administration. So if we look at what has happened over all of the time, we come to the actual allocations. So this is sort of built on actuals. Well, it is totally built on actuals. And so we can see that we have spent we have allocated 173 million. And you can see that we allocated more than originally planned for Lake Merritt, on the order of $8 million, almost $9 million. And we under allocated for the waterfront trails, so by 42 million. So we originally planned to spend 53 million. We've allocated 10 million only. And so I think as we start looking at Series D, it appears to me that we would be focusing on the areas where we have underspent in terms of allocations. And so this to me is an easier way for me to start looking at this through this spreadsheet. And I'm seeing that for making a plan for how to spend the 25 million, which again, for everyone who's here in this call, this is already stated in the bond how we can spend this money. We can't spend it on just anything in Oakland. We have to spend it on what the bond requires us to spend it on. And since we have spent more than planned in Lake Merritt, I can't see that we'll be allocating more to Lake Merritt. We're gonna just spend our remaining funds in that category and call it a day. And then it looks like we need to spend more in for category 2 and category 3 because we've underspent in that category, and then we've overspent in the youth and public rec facilities category, and we still have some more to spend in creeks and watershed. So I just wanted to share that, and go ahead, James Van.
Well, I'm pleased that there is money to see the design effort continue and hopefully be completed.
Yeah.
But I distinctly remember in those hearings that were held in 2006 that the 18 million was earmarked for Estuary Park.
Okay.
And Gilmetti stated to the council that you can save your 18 million because I'm going to develop Estuary Park completely free myself. Now, nobody remembers that, or they say it's not in the documents, but
Who said that?
Gilmetti.
Oh.
Who was the developer at the time.
Okay.
He's now partial developer. So anyway, I think we should check the council's list of projects and the allocations that were stated for them. And I believe that the 18 million is going to be stated there because that figure has been stated so many times, and I can't see that it just disappeared.
Got it. And it looks like the total amount that has been allocated for Estuary Park thus far, if this spreadsheet is correct, is almost 3 million, so 2,900,000. And so so that means that we would have another 15 million to spend on Estuary Park, which again, I think Chris, how can you tell me again, like the current project as it is designed, what you're estimating that the cost would be?
Not really, no. I got cost estimates at schematic design, which are have a lot of, you have to factor in a lot of contingency because it isn't fully designed. And also, we really need to know our target construction dates to be more specific about the cost because escalation is really significant. So based on our conversation about breaking this into sequences, I have some targets of costs depending on when we build them. And so, I think you and I were looking at that 2.8 from Series C being our first phase sequence. And then maybe 15 million, and that would jibe with what seems to be remaining in terms of Estuary Park allocation. That could maybe be targeted for our, second sequence. And then the third, I think, is the real unknown, where we would either look to, measure DD, or we could look to grant, fundraising and or measure. So I think that's the one that's a little further out. But still we continue to pursue it and seek funds for that third piece.
Right, and that third piece might be very grant fundable,
Right,
which is the shoreline. Yeah, go for it. I'm not sure who raised your hand first, but I saw John, then Asada, then Bill.
Yeah, Terry, I don't know whether this is the appropriate place to raise this, but let's finish talking about Estuary Park, and then I have a comment at that
Okay.
point.
Gotcha. Asada.
Yes, I think what has been confusing for me is when you pull up Measure DD, and some statements about it, it says that the over $198 million will be used for safe parks, provide educational and recreational facilities for children. And it looks like when you read it, it goes beyond the Estuary Park, Lake Merritt, and some of the projects you're discussing tonight, because it looks like the majority of the money is intended for just a certain small area of the city around Estuary, Jack London, the Brooklyn Basin, Union Park. And over $88 million has already been spent just on Lake Merritt. And I think what's been confusing for people like me is I'm thinking this is something that's going to be done throughout the city, Measure DD, but it looks like it's a prioritized for a specific geographic area, mainly. And I find that very unfair and misleading. When you read about it, it gives, you say it is supposed to be for specific projects, but the language speaks to maybe it goes beyond these specific projects. And this is a very unfair measure that doesn't give equity to throughout Oakland. And it should have never been done in this way, that you have a project for high maintenance for an area for underserved communities don't come into the project. So I'm very disappointed with this, and I'm learning more about it, but I don't even see how this got on the ballot measure and the way it's been used throughout the years. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Asada. And I just wanted to say this was the voters passed this in 2002, and I just am sharing my screen to show that in the Lake Merritt category, there are different categories within that category, and that money needs to be spent in the Lake Merritt for Lake Merritt improvements around Lake Merritt.
I'm not disputing anything, right, except there is language when you read about the project that alludes to a broader use of the money for safe parks, educational and recreation facilities for children, and that is not the case.
Right.
And that's what I'm talking about. The misrepresentation or the illusion that the money is being spent more broadly when it's more specific for just certain projects in the city. And that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, thank you. I hear you. Thank you. Go ahead, Bill.
Gary, this Oracle allocation and expenditure document that you just shared with us is a wonderful tool. I think we need to see this regularly. I think you need to explain it regularly. It needs to be provided in some publicly accessible form to the coalition.
Okay, yes, thank you. And I'm working on that to, like this was delivered to me fully. We made the decision yesterday to scrap that other spreadsheet because it was becoming just so difficult to take all of these projects with different project numbers from different areas of Oracle from the past and try to figure out what project we're talking about to, and so I just said, let's just work with this spreadsheet that is.
So you have not had this tool available to you before?
No, until yesterday. My fiscal person was transferring the information into that other spreadsheet, and I was like, we should use that spreadsheet. I like that one. And so I made a change and said, let's move from here and let me look at this and figure out how to summarize it in a way that makes sense. And so I just have started looking at it. She just sent me the final, I asked her to add encumbrances and funds available last night. We were on the phone until like 6:30 at night, or I guess that was Friday night. And then she got this to me today. So I'm on a learning curve, but I am slowly climbing up it. So yeah, I hear you. I like it. It's very much more, it's much easier for me to understand and explain. And I feel like I feel confident in it. So yeah, it's helping me understand where we need to go. But the really important thing that I would like your all's input on is, I mean, I like this idea that Chris and I have come up with to, I mean, I know there are unanswered questions about the 7th to 23rd, project. However, I would like to take our remaining funding that we have left in that category and focus it on Estuary Park and make progress so that we're, saying, okay, this part of the project, we know we can get it done, and let's make a plan and a schedule and get it done so we can spend the money, invoice it, and that helps us move to Series D, because we can't. So I'll come, with a better plan to show this, to show the schedule. But when you get to the end of a series, you have to get a certain amount spent, and that requires, like, we cannot wait. We cannot save this money and get the whole project designed and 100% construction plans. We just can't do that, because we need to spend this almost $3 million to move forward. Do you all understand what I'm saying? I'm just like trying to chart a path forward. And to me, it makes sense to use this money to do that, right? So does anyone have any questions about that or concerns? James Van got a thumbs up. Okay. Okay, right. So thank you. Please let me know if you have questions or concerns about this strategy, because this is the strategy I'm going to recommend. Okay, go for it, Asada.
Obviously, my questions and concerns mean absolutely nothing, because I am talking about race equity and low income. When you finish whatever you're doing in the areas described, low income Black and brown people will not be using these facilities. These are not geographical areas where we are primarily located. And the people who are sitting here are not even discussing it as an issue. So you're very accomplished with white privilege being pursued. That's what it is. And so I'll speak to it, and I'll continue to speak to it, knowing that you will continue to ignore it. I don't even see how this got on the ballot when we have a race equity and a race and equity department that requires every project, every agenda item speak to how it enforces race and equity items. You're not doing it. And everybody here is just sitting here floating through whatever they think is important without consideration of everybody in Oakland, particularly Black and brown people and low income people, getting what they need in their parks, in their recreational areas. So go ahead on and do your white thing. I'll continue to say it's wrong.
Thank you for your comments, Asada. I am required to implement this program in the way that it was voted on by council years ago and voted on by the voters years ago. And so we're carrying forward decisions that were made long ago. And I have no power to change the fact that it was decided long ago that this money would be spent on Estuary Park. And part of what we're doing here is extending the Bay Trail. It is a trail that goes all the way around the Bay, and this money is allocated to help fill in some of those segments. And I really do hear what you're saying, And there's, you know, it is,
You don't need to continue because you're doing your job, and I understand that. And you don't have to explain this. You didn't create this. This is a part of your job work that you have to do. So please move on to the next item. This is not about you. You understand. You have no ability to do anything except what you're doing right now. Thank you, though.
okay. So, so we're gonna, this is, we are moving on to the next thing, but thanks for the feedback on the spreadsheet, Bill. I'm gonna continue working on this and come with some better, like develop a new way of doing this. And one thing I would like to do is find where we established original intended amounts to spend on these projects. Like you said, 18 million for Estuary Park, and the degree to which I need to be looking at those numbers that were decided on in the past. I want to find where that is and get that into my spreadsheet so that I have this guide. You know, like you said, it was always in the other spreadsheet. So I'll look back at that one as well and just try to get this all set up in a way that seems to work. So yeah, well, this is our plan for this area. I want to make progress on Estuary Park. I want to spend this money, you know, so we can keep moving forward and complete the projects that we're intending to complete. So let's see, what is next on the agenda? So, Lake Merritt. Oh yeah, okay, go ahead. Yep.
Go ahead. I think it's your.
I just, someone else put this on the agenda. I didn't. I think we can move on from Estuary Park to Lake Merritt unless there are any further comments about Estuary Park. No? Okay. So the next agenda item, I did not put this on here, but
I think we were hoping to hear. I thought we were going to hear a report on like what the proposal was for putting in things to protect the lake against the.
Right. So we are putting together a big bid package. So we did get some findings which have not been written up yet. But we did get some findings based on monitoring and based on recommendations from the consultants that there is a proposal to put an aeration device in one of the arms of the lake and a more of like an oxygenation type of a device in the other arm. And so we are looking at that and waiting to get a more detailed report from the consultants that we would use to put together a bid package moving forward. But the steps ahead of us involve reaching out to the Parks and Recreation Commission, PRAC. We would need to go to them because of how that project will, you know, we would just definitely need to go to the PRAC. And so I'm waiting to get an official report back from our consultants. And also I am looking at how we can get a project installed this summer. And it would be a pilot project to install an aeration device and a oxygenation device. These would be located generally in the same area where the existing fountains are. The existing fountains are not effective. And so, I mean, in my opinion, those existing fountains would no longer be in place and we would have these different systems. And part of the decision making is what will those devices look like? And so I think we got a little off track because of the storms, but I do need to schedule another meeting, another public meeting to explain what our results are. And so I'll be planning that and also planning to go to Prac. But some, you know, how the fountains right now is kind of pretty, the way that it, you know, is just sort of visually appealing, and some of the more effective systems for aeration are not as visually appealing. And so that is going to be a thing that we need to explore with some input from the public. And we, you know, I'm aware of how fast we need to move for this to try to get something in place ahead of the hot summer months. And I will just say that we're doing our best on that. So yeah, but we do have these proposals from the consultants, and yeah, we'll schedule some time for public input. Go ahead, John.
Terry, do you envision using Measure DD funds for any of the expenses that will be incurred to do this work?
Yeah, right now we have some Measure Q funds that we could use on that. And we also, I would like to use some Measure DD funds on it. And I do not have the full proposal yet for the budget side of that. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to get back to you about that full plan once I better understand the costs, because that is part of what I don't yet fully understand, is what is the cost going to be. So I'm not sure exactly how much we need. And yeah, so, and I'm also aware of the other projects that we have in place, the Measure DD wish list projects. And so it may be that we use Measure Q funds for this. And then the remaining funds for Measure DD could be used to fund at least getting started on one of those DD wish list projects. So that's where we are on that.
Okay.
Okay. So that is that one. And then announcements from you all.
All right, well, Katie is not here, so I don't know what their next event is, but I'm sure if you go Google it, you'll find it. So I'm sure you're all on David or Katie's email list by now. Jenny's also not here, so the last Weed Warriors was canceled, so I don't know when the next one's been set up for. Does anyone else have any announcements? Or?
Yes.
I have a question. I have down here that we're supposed to discuss whether or when the coalition will resume meeting in person. I see pros and cons of both, and we want to discuss that now, or?
I feel like don't have a huge number of people, so it might be maybe good to defer it till we have more folks here.
Could we put the note in the end of the minutes and ask them to vote when they want to start returning to the building?
Maybe we could, I will put out an action item that maybe we can do a survey for folks from the agenda committee about meeting in person.
Thank you very much, Adrian.
Just put it on the agenda for next time and we can vote when we're here.
Well, if not everyone's here, like,
I mean, like next
to
time.
send out one.
Adrian?
Go ahead, John.
Just as an addition to the two alternatives of meeting virtually and meeting in person, I'd like to throw on the table the idea of doing a hybrid meeting. So we do both. We both meet in person, but we also have a virtual hookup. So people who aren't able to attend in person can participate.
I think that's really hard to do. I mean, that would be ideal, but I think where we used to meet, there are no facilities for that at all that I can see.
Yeah, and I would just have a comment about that if the city had any support for that kind of setup.
Could we explore that and have a report back?
I can ask some questions about that too.
Sure. I think Mike had some ideas when we talked about it a couple of years ago. So. So agenda committee will take it for the moment, and we'll come back next month with some thoughts.
Okay.
Or a vote, potentially.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? I mean, Mandelin's going to check into it, and I guess I need to check into it too, but does the meeting need to happen at, what is it, 666 Bellevue? Is that it? Where the meeting
At the garden center? I don't know.
I don't think it has to.
But it's traditional as far as I know.
Okay, and I noticed that James had his hand up.
Yes, Adrian, if I might just bring up my second point that was asked to be put on the agenda, which is I was stating requesting a performance account of staff effort and costs regarding the proposed required walking paths at Lake Merritt. This effort to repair the erosion and damage of some of the walking paths at Lake Merritt has consumed at least a year. I think it's about 18 months, for what should be a rather straightforward task. However, completion is still not assured, owing to safety risks for users and potential liability for harm. An intensive review of alternatives is needed to hasten completion of the inherent hazards and to economize increasing costs of the ongoing tasks. One of the suggestions that I had made was, why not just ask the original contractor if he would come back and with his subcontractors who did the original work, see if they can do the work. Also, public works staff themselves did a lot of the path replacement at the leg of the lake that extends over near Harrison and Grand Avenue. So I just don't understand how something this simple can take over a year and we still don't have any progress on this project. And maybe this one is one that could go on the next agenda, but I would like us to discuss how we could get a scheduling of monitoring of the paths along the estuary channel, because they keep getting repopulated with tents and so forth, and those should be open, and maybe we should devise some way of asking for monthly monitoring or something so we can keep those pathways open.
So just to follow up, a clarifying question for you, James. Well, for one thing, I will talk to Craig and I will do, I'll pay more attention to that and, you know, try to keep, you know, try to put some, you know, make that project move forward. So I will do what I can on my end. So thank you for that comment.
Including cost, converse with the original contractor.
Right, and I wrote that note down, so thank you so much. And Asada, you had a comment.
Just a point of clarification regarding the meetings. The city has mandated all boards and commission meetings be in person with the use of Zoom, but not being able to participate through Zoom in board and commission meetings. So is this board appointed by the mayor or is it appointed by the city administrator? But for what allows them to not come under the mandate that board and commissioners now have to meet in person, as well as the council and committee meetings of the council?
This group is not appointed by council, and it's not an official commission. It is a community coalition. Council authorized the formation of this group, and the council agenda report describes what the community coalition, wished for. I think it explains the role of the community coalition in the council report, where council approved the formation. Am I saying this correctly? That
Are
council,
they appointed by the council members?
they're not appointed.
No, it's open.
coalition.
It's designated to be open to anybody who's interested in the work.
Right. Anyone can be a part of this coalition. Like, it's a community coalition, so anyone is welcome to be a part of it. And
So are they making recommendation or they have authority?
they
And
don't
who
have
are they making
authority.
recommendations to?
They don't have authority to make decisions, like say the PRAC does. They just provide input and oversight. Is that correct?
interesting.
We can make recommendations to staff.
Recommendations to staff.
Interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So thanks everybody for your inputs, and anything else?
So I think we should just go over action items. I don't think I think, Terry, you have a lot as usual.
Naomi had one comment, but I don't know if we want to do the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bill? Or
I would
Naomi?
like to say something. I would like to thank Terry for her earnestness and her serious thinking about these projects and how to get them done. And I really appreciate it. And I think that your seriousness is really helpful and very important. And I thank you for that.
Thank you for saying that. Okay. What were we gonna say? The to-do list, Terry's to-do list?
Well, there's one to-do list for the agenda committee to look at what we should do about meeting in person, hybrid, etc. And I will collaborate with Mandolin and Mike and Terry on that. I think that the biggest action items were really what James kind of just asked for in terms of, or like new action items, the performance requests about the path 16 and whether there's an original contractor, and then if there's anything we can do about keeping pathways open
Right.
underneath the bridges and things. Myra, did you have anything on your list, or Mandolin, that ought to be called out?
Well, I have, all the things with Terry, talking to Rebecca Dar about things. I have something about Terry, Naomi asking for some information on the billboard ordinance.
Yes.
I
That's
can
all.
tell you about that if you want to know. I have to do, but it is there's been some skullduggery in the background, and there is now not a proposal to reform the ordinance because some of the warring parties have decided to get together and institute a lot more billboards by making a kind of deal together. And I am still researching this, but I was informed that there was this. I've been asking, where is it? Where is it? Where's the proposed language, etc., for weeks and not getting any reply. And finally, somebody said, yeah, they're not going to rewrite the ordinance. They're going to try this workaround. And just to say it briefly, the current billboard ordinance forbids new billboards except in the case of exchanging an old billboard for a new billboard. And it does not specify the size. And so apparently the cabal is working on this, feels that they can exchange a bunch of very small billboards in neighborhoods for some large number of big billboards along 880 and convert some of the standard billboards to LED billboards. So we may be up against a council that is so hungry for some money that they will go for this thing, but I haven't analyzed the deal yet, and I will be trying to understand it as of tomorrow because I just heard about this.
Okay, so do we want to keep this as an action item or a potential item, or can we cross it off and just let us know if you want to put it on at some point?
I will try to update folks long before 2 months from now, because if it is just a procedural thing and some kind of very simple negotiation by comparison with passing a revised ordinance,
How does it affect the DD?
it is connected with Measure DD only in that we could be blocking views to the Bay Trail. Should we have a Bay Trail?
This is Bob Redmond, okay, and Myra's doing a great job as my wife, but I have to let you know that I'm a former owner of a billboard company, okay, and we're not all that bad,
Full
okay.
disclosure.
Full disclosure. I'd be happy to give you some of the contra views that you're looking to find.
I actually used to design billboards, so I too have some background in this kind of field. It's the number and placement that has me worried.
Well, what has me worried would be more legal lawsuits, which I don't think Double D needs.
Agreed.
And you know, we have other possible recurring topics like the encampment management policy. At one point, we were concerned about that. The encampments under the bridge, but do we think we have enough on our agenda already for next month?
And one, oh, go ahead, Bill.
Well, if we're talking about possible agenda items for next meeting, from Terry's comments, it sounds as if the expected sale of Series D is being pushed back somewhat, but I think it's important that we do some conceptual planning. And maybe 6 months ago or so, there was some discussion about seeing right about now a Series D allocation plan. But rather than pressing for a Series D allocation plan, which may have more detail, I think it would be very desirable, Terry, for you to present a conceptual plan for Series D allocation in a very tentative fashion that the coalition can then react to. We can say, oh, we understand what your thinking is, or we're not sure about that piece of your thinking. So that rather than just having it be a fait accompli, here it is, it could be a discussion item. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So we would have a sense of what you're thinking about Series D. So I'm just going to call that a conceptual allocation plan.
I think I can do that by the next meeting, and it depends on me meeting with budget and treasury and all of that. And they, I'm ready to do that with them now.
Yeah,
So I
well,
should be able to
and
tell
don't feel that you would be pinned down to any numbers that you're putting out there. But
Okay.
if you're able to say, well, it looks like the bulk of it somewhere around, this size chunk would likely go to this purpose, that would help people to understand what is your thinking process.
Okay,
And if they objected to it, to register that objection at that point.
okay. Sounds cool. Yeah, and James.
Yeah, I just, I put a couple of things in the chat in response to Ms. Olabala's questions. And I just wondered if she is on the phone or whether she could see those or not. Ms. Olabala, were you able to see the things put in the chat? Okay.
You're muted.
Yeah, I was pulling it up. I can do that, James. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Cool. Now I see these comments in here too. Thank you. Thanks for that comment, James. Okay. Oh, I was gonna maybe say one thing about the agenda that it is like with, say, the billboards and talking about the encampment management team. It does seem a little bit like topic of conversation that maybe staff doesn't need to be here for. You know what I mean? So maybe we could, and same with like the official Measure DD agenda and minutes and all of that, because it isn't so much about the job that I'm trying to do. And the encampment management team work is so far outside my control. And so I just would ask that maybe I do find it interesting, but I do, yeah, I'm wondering if maybe Manflin and I could leave the meeting and you all could continue discussing those kinds of items that are not as directly connected. And I'm just going out on a limb to make that request because, yeah.
Takes a long day.
Yeah, it does. And I want to, help out as much as I can, but I should probably have some boundaries. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I just thought I would make that comment. So go ahead, John.
I mean, I've raised issues about the homelessness situation as much as anybody. And the main reason that I raised that issue in this context is
Yeah.
that when I raise that issue, I'm raising it because I see things going on that are having an adverse impact on Measure DD funded improvements.
Right.
That's the connection as far as I'm concerned. So.
Right. And I really hear that. It's just that I can't, like, there's so little that I can do about it. And so I wonder, I mean, basically, ultimately what needs to happen is there is this, if people see this issue occurring, they can send a complaint to 311 and to the homelessness, email, and CC Watersheds, CC my group, and then we're aware of it. But and both say it's affecting Measure DD and it's affecting water quality. Like if it's affecting water quality or habitat, that's important to say that affects the other part of my job, and I can take action on that. And then if it's affecting a DD project, I can take action on that, but less. I just don't have that much control. So maybe what we could do is just come up with a strategy. And I thought we worked on that a little bit, but I'm not sure discussing it here is what is helpful. Like the more we just get the complaints off to the folks. And I suppose you could put on the agenda that there's going to be a letter, or like we're going to take an action or something like that. But I just I have gone through many, like, there's so little that I can do about it.
Well, Terry, you do realize that we have, as a coalition, taken on issues and written letters and so forth that don't affect you, don't involve you.
Okay,
And
yeah,
just
okay.
because something's on the agenda doesn't mean you're responsible for it.
Okay, great. That sounds good. I totally get it. I think the billboards is maybe, but again, billboards, I guess, could block a DD project. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. So thank you for hearing me out. I really hear what you're saying too. And yeah, the encampments are very challenging, especially for the people living in them. And yeah, so yeah, it's tough. So yes, Asada.
I think the point of discussion about the encampments is very, very valid. I think people need to pay attention to the mayor's budget and the recommendations, how they're getting rid of the homeless administrative director, and they are not funding the homeless encampments or any aspects of homelessness to the degree I think it is necessary. And people who care about, as the gentleman does, need to encourage the council to put more funding into the homelessness issues, not just housing, but the issues that are being discussed right now, how the homeless community impacts the quality of communities. So that can happen with the money being allocated appropriately for it. At the current budget doesn't do it, as proposed by the mayor and other council members.
Well, thanks, everybody. I guess we'll continue talking about homeless encampments through this group, and I understand why. And also for something to be done, yeah, let's, you all obviously will take the action that you need to, but I certainly recommend sending complaints in as needed. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. Is that it?
That's it. Thanks very much. And I just want to, Terry, thank you again for that new spreadsheet, because I've long hated that spreadsheet we worked from and never really understood what it actually meant. So just what you showed like made a lot more sense than that spreadsheet ever did. So.
We can thank my fiscal colleague, Lita Buenaflor, for it. So I'll tell her that you all liked it, and then I'm going to work on it a little bit more, and then we'll share it. Okay?
Great.
All right.
Thank you for your time, Terry. Thank you for everybody's time and everybody's comments. I will see you all next time.
And thank you, Adrian.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Adrian.
Adrian. Thanks,
Bye.
Mandel. Take care.
Yep.
Bye.